Offer available for karaoke.
This message brought to you by ZIZ and the Fire Department of St. Kitts and Nevis.
I am Woman Fire Officer Mavis White Archibald with your safety tip for today. If a fire occurs in your home, get out, stay out, and call for help. Never go back inside the house for anyone or anything.
This message was brought to you by ZIZ and the St. Kitts Nevis Fire Department.
Hey, good morning once again, and welcome back to our program, The Morning Show. It's now time for our segment, Fire Talk, with Mr. Martin and Mr. Williams in the studio with us. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good
Morning, GQ. Good morning, all.
Morning,
All
Mr.
right.
Audience.
So this morning, as usual, I'm the moderator, by the way, just in case people just tuning for the first time. And we have two hosts in the studio with us, and they're going to be kicking off the program. We're going to open the lines if necessary, based on how much time we have. Our goal here, though, is to share the information, and this morning is no exception. So who's going to lead off this morning? Will it be you again, Mr. Martin?
All right, good morning, GQ again. I just want to say we have a very special guest with us this morning, and she comes at a particularly nice time. If everyone notice outside,
I would say appropriate.
appropriate, right? Appropriate,
Better word.
right? Indeed. If everyone look outside, we see what's happening outside. You know, it's kind of raining cats and dogs. Now, this fine lady here, who she would introduce herself. She's here to put a bit of perspective as to what's going on the outside. So, without no further ado,
Good morning and thank you, gentlemen. My name is Claricia Langley Stevens, and I'm the Deputy National Disaster Coordinator at NEMA in St. Kitts. And this morning it is truly an honor to be here on Fire Talk. I look forward to engaging the gentlemen here in studio with me, as well as the listening public. And of course, I'm sure because of what is happening on the outside, it's always good to see a representative from NEMA to be able to have access to them and ask questions and get updates and so forth. And I will be happy with support from the gentleman here to do so this morning. If you would permit me, I just want to read our tropical advisory as of 7 a.m. this morning. And it says, NEMA office and the St. Kitts and Nevis Met office are monitoring tropical cyclone 6, and I know we're at 6 already, which continues to move across the area. Showers, thunderstorms, and gusty winds are anticipated over and around the islands during the next 24 hours. Possible rainfall totals for the period could range between 25.4 to 50.8 millimeters, or 1 to 2 inches. The seas are expected to be rough. As a result, we have issued a small craft warning, and that remains in effect for St. Kitts and Nevis. At this time, residents are urged to avoid parking in flood-prone areas that usually flood when we have rainfalls, because we look at areas such as College Street Gut, and that's a natural waterway, and we want to discourage persons from parking in those areas around this time. And if you have to use these areas, to exercise extreme caution. We are looking at areas also along the Island Main Road that were vulnerable to land slippage or rock falls. We want persons to be mindful of that at this particular time. So I wanted to be able to just start the conversation there, because I'm sure you can guess that the agency is bombarded with telephone calls. Thankfully, there is no school, because we know what the conversation would have been like. However, persons wanted to know if there's work today or whatever the case is. A gentleman just before I came into studios asked the question and said, I thought you all said the rain was going to fall last night into this morning. One of the things that we want to remind people is that the weather is extremely dynamic. And yes, the weather personnel and authorities do their best to keep us up to date. But when these things change without a moment's notice, we just have to be able to adjust and be guided accordingly.
So in other words, nothing is set in stone.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And so this morning we would see outside being extremely rainy. We want to also use the opportunity to indicate to persons that this is the start of the peak of the Atlantic hurricane season for the Caribbean region. If we are monitoring the Atlantic, and I really want to encourage persons to just monitor the Atlantic, but only use authorized information from the Met Office to be able to make informed decisions.
Right.
The Met Office, those are the individuals who advise NEMA. Of course, NEMA is not the competent weather authority. We do not have meteorologists there. We depend on the Met Office for our weather information. And then when we get that information based on what it means or it's interpreted to mean for St. Kitts and Nevis, then we will package a conversation of safety and security for citizens and residents. So I just want to be sure, because I'm sure you've heard people say, I wonder why NEMA tell us
Yes.
this, and I wonder why NEMA tell us
Yes,
that.
yes.
It's not NEMA who does the weather. So we are guided by the Met Office, and I want to encourage the general public to pay attention to the weather updates. They're going to be more frequent now because of the peak of the season. And we are, at NEMA, we are trying to repackage it in a very simple language that allows for persons to understand and disseminate it through our social media platforms. So we look forward to persons just tuning in and being aware of what is happening with the weather at this time.
Indeed, indeed. Slow down, and take in the information. I know over the years we have, grown to a kind of culture of, okay, you said this is coming in, and that's it. And you throw your hand up in the air and then look, you hear something else coming, you say, but what's going on? I thought you said, and then you think it's over, As a matter of fact, I said that just to let you guys know, there's another potential storm in the back of this one that we have here that is coming as well. And like Ms. Langley said, nothing is set in stone. So simply that, things can change at a whim.
Yep.
So that's the reason why we have to pay attention. Just wanted to throw that in there so as a support to what you're saying in terms of the conversation. So apart from that, what else is on your agenda for this morning? What did you want to share with the audience here, I should say?
So just before we started the program, I was here thinking that my fire colleagues must really love rainy weather, because water is what is used to calm fires, in my opinion. Just a little morning humor. GQ, one of the things that we pride ourselves on at NEMA during this particular time is ensuring that persons understand that we are now operating in a dual hazard environment. And what that means is that, yes, we are in the peak of the hurricane season and we know that the storms are going to come, but we're also operating in the context of COVID. And so the agency has found itself in a position where we had to adjust our language and our thought process, of course, for the safety of the majority of individuals. One, at this point, we are not conveying the message of the body system. We know that the body system means get in touch with a neighbor, a family, a friend, in the event that you are impacted, that you can seek refuge with these individuals. With the wake and in the advent of COVID, we do not want persons to do that, because you don't know who might have contracted the virus, the COVID-19 virus. So the government has approved our national shelters, and that is going to be publicized maybe as early as this afternoon into tomorrow. But we are going to encourage persons to do due diligence on their own properties, because the safest place for you is at home. And if you know that your homes are vulnerable, here is an opportunity. Rain is falling. If there is leakage, you're going to find out. And you have an opportunity to fix it before something major happens. Bearing in mind that we are looking at an Atlantic year for the hurricane season that closely reflects 2017. And if 2017 meant anything to us, where we experienced the only 2 Category 5 hurricanes that came out, St. Kitts and Nevis, we were on either side of both storms. I mean, how miraculous is that? And we are saying that the number of named storms has increased, and the number of hurricanes, in terms of major storms, has also increased. And we want persons to be very mindful. The thing about it with our shelters that we have to bear in mind, and I can't say this enough, the shelters are available. They're going to be equipped. They're going to be shelter managers stationed in these areas. But a shelter is not a comfortable place. It is not your home. And so we're encouraging persons to ensure that their homes are given the care and attention that it needs to cut the down trees, remove the debris from around the place, be able to barricade the vulnerable windows, because some people just have naturally exposed windows and doors. Barricade them, make sure that they're okay. By now, persons should have gone out and made a small shopping to support non-perishable items, things that don't easily spoil, the crackers and the sardine, tuna, Vienna sausage, salmon, whatever it is you eat, beans, it doesn't matter. And I think that at this stage also, persons should have done their own vulnerability checks of their properties to determine what do I need to get addressed, how quickly can I address it, and what type of assistance do I need to be able to rectify any issues around my home. Because like I said, we are not going to encourage persons to go next door to get refuge. We're encouraging you to stay home, which means that we have to talk about an emergency family plan. That basically means having the necessary things in place that would allow you to be able to respond in an efficient time and manner to your own needs and those that you love and care for. At this point, GQ, I can't tell you enough that persons who care for vulnerable persons in their homes need to be very, very mindful of this. Vulnerable to include the elderly, persons with disabilities, small babies who are unable to care for themselves. We're looking at the conversation of those who use insulin. What will happen if electricity goes? So you have a cool storage area, cooler with ice and things of those nature. Excess diapers and baby food. I mean, in 2017, the amount of baby food we had to try and secure from supermarkets because persons just dropped the ball in these areas. And that's what an emergency plan is. Getting the things that you need to provide for those that you love and care for, including yourself. That includes your emergency go bag. If you have to grab a bag to go, it's already packed with the essential things. A first aid kit, as the case may be. Having a small amount of cash, because one of the first things that get affected when we're impacted is the electricity supply. And I mean, Skellig has been doing an amazing job in getting us up and running very quickly.
For sure.
But if it cannot happen, what then becomes your game plan? So you kind of have to plan around all of the contingencies. I know we do a lot of work with fire, and I can tell you the family emergency plan is not just a hurricane preparedness plan. It's a plan that goes beyond, as the case may be, to support what would happen even in the event of a fire emergency. You know, so I think that I really want to thank the gentleman from Fire for the invitation, because I believe it's a timely conversation. And when it is raining outside, that's when you get people's ears. That's when they're tuning in and listening, because they want to know what is happening.
Exactly. This person is asking, how long should you prepare for in case of a storm? 4 days, 5 days?
So the standard thing is you should have enough supplies for at least 3 days. Government support program, including feeding, shelter assistance, these things don't come into effect until technically 3 days after. So you should have a 3-day supply for you and anybody else that you care for. I know, and I want to draw from a 2017 experience. I'm not even sure if it's Fire. I think it's Fire we sent for a young lady, a very popular young lady, and she always says, you know, use my story, Clarissa, because I lived it. Just built a new home. And I mean, the hurricane just, had its way. And her and her young son and her mom, they had to survive under a fridge. Like, they pulled the fridge over and opened the door to create a barrier. It was one of the most terrifying experiences. Now, the case in point here is that when we sent Fire for her, and her family, she wasn't even wearing any clothes. She wasn't wearing any clothes because she wasn't thinking. She was thinking, my house is safe. It's a brand new house. I'm going to get comfortable in my bed because it's raining on the outside. And saying, no, we want persons to be mindful. You know, when there is weather outside, especially if it's a direct threat to St. Kitts and Nevis, do not take it for granted. Pay attention to what is happening. Be on standby, be on alert. It is as if you're working for NEMA, but you are at home, because we at NEMA, we don't sleep. We can't sleep because we are your eyes and ears. We have to pay attention to what is happening. I mean, you know how this works, GQ, because you stay with us to be able to make sure that the general public stay updated, and we do our best in providing information as much as we can. The challenge that we are finding, persons don't listen to the radio, unfortunately. And so we always encourage persons that at a time like this, make the radio your best friend. And if you don't have a transistor, get one.
Yes.
It's important.
Yes, because I remember in one scenario, there was this gentleman, I'm not going to call his name, in Deep Bay, and he wasn't listening to the radio. And he called me and he was like, what going on outside? What happening? He said the yard was flooded and he was panicking and he was very concerned. So I said to him, don't you know that a hurricane is passing right now? He said, no, I tell him nothing. You know? And I think his credit went out on his phone and he wanted someone to come over to Deep Bay to help him. Eventually he did got help, but I draw a scenario to say, you know, he went to sleep, he woke up the morning and, you know, he just saw it was raining and he didn't know it was actually storm passing. You know?
And that's something.
Yeah, so we really need to, you know, put away the ignorance, if I can put it that way, for the sake of, for whatever reason, you know. I don't know why, but it's time that we should embrace the information that is there for us. Talking about information that is there for us, if you have a question, you can call right now, 465-2555, that's 2555. See, we have 1 or 2 people online listening via BIP, well, sending the message via BIP. But if you do have a concern that you want to raise right now, you can do so. We have Ms. Langley Stevens here in the studio with us, and of course we have the gentleman from the fire department. So while we do wait for interaction with the audience, if they do have any questions and concerns, what else would you like to share with us?
So one of the things I want to highlight is the fact that fire and rescue has always been a key stakeholder with NEMA over the years. They are a part of, they form a part of our initial clearance and search and rescue subcommittee. And we know search and rescue is the sole responsibility of the fire and rescue services. It has been that way since I joined the disaster management fraternity. Additionally, we do a lot of training exercises to be able to engage fire. And so they become a very critical part of our safety mechanism. Additionally, one of the things that I want to highlight is that NEMA is a very small staff. A big building, small staff. And we're dependent on our stakeholders to be able to help us. But we also have what you call a volunteer mechanism. And these are ordinary men and women in their communities who just want to be able to serve their community members. And we continue to empower them and train them. Our NEMA district managers, they continue to avail themselves to be able to meet the needs of their communities, and not only during the hurricane season, but at any given time, because we at NEMA, we embrace what you call the disaster management cycle, and you would find that we are operating in terms of preparedness. We operate to be able to respond. We operate in times of recovery, and we operate in times to support mitigation. So those are our 4 critical areas. So it means that we are always functional and operational. It doesn't stop. And the word cycle means never ending.
Let's take our first call. Good morning, Good Life.
Good morning. Hello.
Yes, good morning. Go ahead.
I'd like to know about the shelter for like Cardin Avenue and the village area. Where about that be?
All right, thanks for your question, man.
Okay, all right.
You heard the question?
So the shelter that is approved for the Cardin Avenue area is the St. Johnson Community Center. The St. Johnson Community Center has been the shelter for that particular area for over the last 10 years. Sadly, though, GQ, and I want to thank the caller for that question. Sadly, though, I know that the Ministry of Community and Social Development, as well as NEMA District Number 3, which is aligned with the electoral boundary. So whenever I talk about a NEMA district and its number, it means it is the same thing as the electoral boundary or constituency, as the case may be. So NEMA District 3, where that shelter is located, has been vandalized so many times.
Wow.
Noting the purpose
Wow.
of the facility, and you find every time we get to the hurricane season, there is the opportunity to replace broken windows that somebody just deliberately took a stone and broke the window.
Wow.
And I really want to use this opportunity to say how disheartening it is, because if you continue to degrade these important properties, when we need them to be able to provide for the needs of the community, they're not going to be available. And this is not just that particular area, but that one always managed to just take a licking.
Wow.
And it has served as a shelter before. It continues to serve persons and families who feel that their homes are not in a position to withstand a hurricane, and they look to that facility for refuge. So I really want to encourage the general public to just provide care for these government-owned facilities that at some point can become a place of refuge for the communities.
Maybe even for your own self as well.
Yes.
Yes, indeed. 465-2555, that's 2555. And like I said before, well, I'm seeing some responses here but they are not per se questions per se.
Okay.
So I'll leave that as is for now. We just have about 5 more minutes before we wrap up. Gentlemen, anything from your end before we bounce back over to Ms. Langley Stevens?
Yes, well, I will first want to, of course, thank NEMA for favorably responding to our request.
I like those choice of words.
To have a representation here on our show.
Yes.
And so we are basically saying to the listening audience that, hey, it is a fire talk, but we're not just here to talk about fire. We are here to give you whatever information that you need. So I would ask Ms. Stevens if what information you have in the form of a leaflet that is readily available to person who might want to have a physical list of things that they could put together to form whether a safety package or along the line with some of the things that you would have mentioned. Is a list like that available that persons will come maybe to the office to collect?
All right, thank you. Yes, there's a list that you call an emergency supplies list, and we have it from food to personal items. It is available on our website and our Facebook page, www.nema.kn, and that's our website, and our Facebook page is NEMA SKN. And so that information is there. It's actually in what you call a graphic tile, and it's also WhatsAppable. I would be happy to share it with you gentlemen, so that you can go ahead and send it to everybody in your phone and just ask them to do the same thing, because it's public knowledge. One of the things, gentlemen, that the National Disaster Coordinator, Mr. Abdia Samuel, continues to highlight as the agency is always in preparedness mode, is to be able to just encourage individuals to be responsible. There are some aspects of preparedness and readiness that is sole responsibility of the individual. You know, do not wait until last minute to be able to get your food supplies. Do not wait until last minute to get your medication. This is the time for it. Or it means that you're just going to be in the long lines if and when we are threatened. And we don't want that, because there's so much you can be doing at home with your family to be able to get ready. At this juncture, I really want to commend the staff of the agency who continue and has been working since the start of the COVID pandemic straight into the hurricane season. And we've been doing that for 2 years straight since February 2020. I really want to commend them for their human service and all of our other stakeholders who continue to partner with us. Additionally, I want to thank our volunteers, our district managers, assistant managers, and other volunteers, to include our youth ambassadors, because that's the youth version of NEMA's volunteer mechanism, who continue to give up their time and efforts and skills freely. Like I always say, from the communications unit, we give as much information as we can, and we hope that persons would adhere and take responsibility for the content of that message. And whenever we share something, we don't expect you to keep it. We want you to share it, because the information that is coming from the agency is technically designed to take us from a place or even a mentality of danger to safety.
All right, let's go to the phone line and let's take this call. Thanks for your patience. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Vito.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning to the good people in here from NEMA.
Yes, they're listening. Go ahead.
Updating us on the tropical storm out there and what we must do from what we mustn't do. Now, just a little question to you all. Actually, I'm not coming late because I see about the animals, them, because, you got to show the animals, them, too. Now, what happened that, suppose now, somebody if they destroy, a family, or maybe a chief family or so they destroy, and that shelter, you all got anything put in place, because people got to own me. Like to look at with this COVID, to social distance and everything, and somebody needed to control, to see that they're in good order, because some of these people that will be shelters, all of them in family members. So I just asked the question if you all got things put in place that these people could operate themselves and be a distance from one another. Good program as usual. All the best.
All the best, man. Thanks for your question. Over to you. Yeah?
Yes. So, yes. To avoid complete chaos, we ensure that our shelters, our emergency shelters, are properly managed by trained shelter managers. Luckily enough, we are building capacity annually, and we have, I am proud to say that St. Kitts and Nevis is one of the only Caribbean countries, because of COVID, has identified via CARPHA that our shelters already met the standards for social distancing within the shelter because of the spacing that we use. And we use toe-to-toe type of method, and we also isolate families, because I do understand what the caller is saying. Not everybody would be related, but we do clusters, where if you're a family, you're going to be in a cluster by yourself. You're expected to adhere to the COVID-19 protocols. Getting in the shelter is a formal process where you have to register and all of that good stuff. Testing your temperature and all of that. So that doesn't go through the door because you're in a shelter. Okay. Things might have to be done a little swiftly, but we understand. So the shelters are managed by shelter managers trained by NEMA and equipped to be able to respond.
All right, we have another individual on the line. Good morning. Go ahead with your question.
Good morning. I've often wondered why NEMA doesn't engage in some simulation exercises. I have seen many countries where relief supplies have been given out, let's say from a big truck or something, and the behavior, the violent behavior, the animal behavior of the people is really so sad to look at. And I think NEMA need to do some of these simulation exercises so our people in certain events could be orderly and conduct themselves properly so the event can take place with the most efficiency. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you for your suggestion. Any take on that?
Of course. One of the things that the agency, and these gentlemen sitting next to me, they can validate that the agency continues to engage in drills and simulation exercises of varying nature. We do it with school children, workplaces. We do evacuation exercises. We do tsunami-based evacuation exercises. We do fire safety exercises, basic first aid. We do relief and welfare, initial damage assessment. I mean, we do the whole lot of it. I'll tell you what, GQ. Whenever we conduct these exercises, especially if we have to disrupt traffic or any operation I mean, the agency get costs from now until whenever. Oh, what is all you're doing? Are you wasting people time and things
we too, you know. Oh, you giving false alarm on the radio and blah blah blah.
And we clearly highlight that it is an exercise. Because we do that to test the persons who are going to respond in actualness, to be able to help us and see, are we doing it in quick enough time? Do they have access to the right resources? Do we need to change the route? Do we need to send traffic this way instead of this way to create, you know, or to uncluster, decluster the trafficking issues and so forth? I mean, we do this all the time. We test our first responders and their response time. We do exercises. We do one in March. We do one in June. We do one in November. We just keep doing these exercises in and out of school. So I really want to assure the caller that we do exercises, and it's unfortunate that it is not known, and of course maybe our communications unit need to do more in getting the information out there, but I also have to say that persons never tune in until when it's affecting them.
I got some support for you on that note, but before I take that and go to that support, let me say good morning to this caller, and thank you for holding. Go ahead with your question.
Yeah, hello, good morning, Jiku.
Yes, morning.
Yeah, and good morning to the good staff you have there.
Morning.
Now we know that shelters are there to protect people and to make sure that they are safe from life-threatening dangers. Example, fire and water. We see what's happening in the outer world with these people, with the load of fire. People have to run to this rescue and that rescue. Now, my question is that we know from Adlam Street in Bastille down to West Bronco, when we have a certain amount inches of rain, we know the whole streets down there flooded. And a lot of these streets are flooded because the outlet in the drains are blocked up. What relationship is NEMA have with the public health department, WAFing just them to make sure that these culverts are cleared on a regular basis? I'll listen up there. Thanks for your response.
All right, thank you for your call, man. We have another call on hold, but I'll let you respond before.
Okay, so as it relates to the relationship, NEMA work with all government institutions, and that particular responsibility of clearing of waterways is partly shared with Public Works Department and the Department of Health. And as a part of our mitigation mechanism, the National Mitigation Council, all of these individuals has already been activated. I know the clearing of waterways has already started, and we ourselves at NEMA, we do our own monitoring of these waterways, and we encourage our district volunteers to also assist. So that has started. One of the challenges that we face and we find that cause flooding issues in these areas is persons continuously dumping debris in the guts. And we have been monitoring this situation for years. You don't ever see them, you just see the garbage appear. And I'm talking bed, stove, refrigerators, washers. Even when there are signs erected said no dumping, fines, and etc., etc., persons still find a way to dump. And I just want to encourage persons to understand that a lot of the issues in terms of our irresponsible actions, they come back to haunt us. Because you might be the one to dump the refuse inside the gut, and when something happens where there is flooding, you would find that you might be the same person in town crossing the waterway when the debris comes down and cause complete mayhem. So we want to encourage persons to discontinue these bad habits, because the effect is long-term and it doesn't only affect you, it affects everybody.
Let's back to the phone line. Good morning once again, and you're live.
Hello, I have to call back. It's good to know that it's a simulation exercise, but I don't think you answered me specifically because I'm not aware of it. Maybe it happened. If you have simulation exercise where you have to give food and medical supplies after a storm, okay, because I've seen in many countries where it is done, there's a lot of bad behavior, people get trampled, fighting, and all that kind of stuff. And that's what I'm speaking of specifically. I have no doubt that there's similar exercises because I've heard of them, but that one especially is of concern to me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, caller. Let me seek to clarify. So we have done simulation exercises regarding logistics of relief and welfare supplies through our own district mechanism, and because of limited resources, we are unable to do a full-blown community-based exercise. One, our resources in terms of relief supplies usually only get to us after an impact because storage is an issue. However, with the support of Red Cross, I can tell you that we would have gone through, and having engaged countries such as Dominica and St. Vincent and the Grenadines as recent as last week in an exchange for knowledge in terms of how they would have dealt with the distribution of their own relief and utilization of their shelters as it relates to volcanic eruption, also dealing with the COVID-19, is for this particular reason. And the question that you asked, because we wanted to know what are some of the challenges that they face and what are some of the lessons that we can learn in terms of when we implement it. So yes, we do small-scale simulations. A lot of that is done via the Red Cross support. NEMA directly, we are not in a position to do so because our resources are extremely limited at this time, and we only gain access to the bulk of our relief supplies when we are impacted or when we are under threat. But thanks for the question, and I understand your concern.
Okay. If that's it for this morning, we can wrap it up now. I'm going to wait a few seconds to see if anyone else want to get in. Because I know I said we're going to end at 10, but for me, information is important. And if people want the information, we give them the information. If we don't receive any other calls, we're going to call it that. We appreciate you guys staying the extra 10 minutes this morning to get the information across. Ms. Stevens, we also appreciate you being here this morning and getting the word out. In terms of the support, the lady was saying people listen to radio, but they only listen for Melly. That's another morning laughter for us. So, thanks for the laughter, whoever you are.
We know you have some juicy Melly.
Let's take this call. Good morning, you're live.
Good morning, Brother GQ and the panel.
Yes, morning.
GQ, you remember what today is?
It's supposed to be your birthday, right? It's supposed to be your birthday, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, man. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you. Let's step aside from birthday. I am pleased to hear the panel and the plan in advance for the hurricane. And I could put it out there. I'm still in New York. If there are needs for generators, should there be shortage, I can put my hands and a couple dozen in terms of getting them, and, you know, they take care of the shipping and whatever cost it entails. It's just I have access to generators. So if anyone interested, individually or to whom it may concern, so to speak, I'm putting my number. If you could jot this down, 347-460-8192. Call me on WhatsApp. I will answer. It's just for you to call should you have need.
All right, man. Thank you for your input and your assistance, if I may say. And happy birthday once again, man.
Thank you, buddy.
Yes, man. Well, you call that community assistance, right?
That's right.
Yes, man. Indeed.
And generators are duty-free
Yeah.
because they support this particular time of year. So I think persons should really grab hold of the opportunity because generator is a necessity when the power goes down.
Especially if you have a shop. Keep your produce and drinks cold. Good morning, you're live.
A pleasant good morning to you.
Yes, morning to you, my friend.
Yeah. As a NEMA volunteer, right, I also share some of the sentiment of Mr. Stephen also. And especially persons listening to the radio, right? NEMA have a program for years. Every Sunday, and I think the rebroadcast is at Thursday time.
That's correct.
Yeah, so who want to hear what's going on? They're bringing on the information every week. Yeah, thanks for your time.
Yes, man, and thanks for highlighting that, you know. But I hate to go back to what the lady said, but she hit the nail on the head there.
You know, GQ, one of the things that the former NDC of NEMA always said in his presentations, and it's only after he left I realized that he says sometimes NEMA can be like the story of Nima can be like the story of Noah and the ark. And Nima would talk, and we talk every day. Our communications unit does a fantastic job in getting the information out there. And most of our programming comes through ZIZ, so you know that the information is out there. And we'll talk, and only when we are impacted. Persons will say, oh, come here, nothing. And it's like the story of the ark. The flood is going to come. The flood is going to come. And then the flood comes, and everybody said, well, you didn't tell us that the flood was coming. And so we're trying to eradicate that, to be completely honest with you. And like I said to most people, whenever we make presentations, NEMA is not a hurricane-centric office. We are an office that is responsible for comprehensive disaster management, and that is all hazards that would affect all persons. So we want to make sure that persons realize that we don't only speak from 1st of June to the end of November. We are speaking all year round.
Thank you for clearing that up. Good morning. You're live.
Yeah, just a quick question, Vicky. Just with the radio said you, a lot of people said they listen to radio and anything. But I just want to know if you all got these things up on social media too, the information on social media. Because there are a lot of young people that don't listen to radio. You understand now on the phone. So, and you got young mothers out here with children live by themselves, and you know. So I just want to know if all these information so up on the social media. You can go whatever site you come up and do it. All right.
All right, my buddy. But I think they I don't want to go back to the lady point, but I don't think that people don't listen to radio. Is what they choose to listen. Or hear. That's the concern.
Yes.
Good morning. You're live.
Yes. Good morning. Good morning to the panel. Good information. I was wondering, why doesn't the government volunteer a bit more money for to NEMA? Because they know they take care of disasters, and every year we on the track to get hurricanes. They consider getting more dangerous every year. So I don't know why they should be even be short of money. Another concern, I think for a long time, I think Sadler's area might be one of the area weak in such department. They don't have a community center. I think they would have to maybe use the school to do such thing. And I think one time earlier this year, I think Flo was giving out free computers to community centers. Sadler's was not even entitled to get any because they don't have a community center. So there's lack of information there then. So I guess up to the authorities to work on that. But keep it up, NEMA. Good job still.
Thank you so much. GQ, as it relates to budgeting, one of the things I want persons to realize that NEMA is a coordinator. That's what we do. We bring all of the moving parts together. And so as it relates to budgeting, what government does is that everybody gets a budget. But in the event that we are threatened, all budgets support the government's ability to respond. Yes? So it's not just in a NEMA's wallet. If it's a welfare issue, social development will take care of those costs. And so because it's built in a part of the Mitigation Council, and NEMA coordinates. So we will bring everybody together, and this is what needs to be done. What's the problem? This is the problem. Okay, who's going to take the lead? You'll take the lead, and you already have a government-assigned budget. So that's how the government system works. NEMA don't have a wallet in and of itself to be able to just look after these affairs. And some of them, they go way beyond our budget anyway. Right. So the government would have to subsidize heavily.
All right. Lady was just trying to get in, and it was in support of you guys. She was calling to say that she thought she was live, but I realized she probably misunderstood what I said. But anyways, regardless, she was trying to get across the point that she listened to the program on every Sunday. So just in case, get away from that talk that people don't listen to the radio. I guess that's what she was trying to prove, that people are listening. People are listening, indeed.
What's the name of the show?
Danger to Safety.
Danger to Safety.
From Danger to Safety.
Every Sunday, every Thursday, and a rebroadcast on Sundays.
Yes.
At 3.
Yes. All right, we're going to call it that for this morning. I want to thank our callers who called in and our listeners. And Some people might say you're listening, but I know you're listening. Thank you for your participation, regardless. We appreciate it. And as we get into the peak of the season, I would like to make a suggestion. Don't wait until the storm start knocking on our door to get yourself prepared. Even if you mean buying 2 extra sardines every week and just put on the side, so by the time we're ready for a storm, you got maybe 7 or 10 already put aside, you know what I mean? Because, money ain't like that. We just run and do it and, buy in a bunk. Well, maybe you do have the money like that. I don't know. But that's my suggestion for me, my last words, and I'll leave the rest of the words for you, gentlemen and lady.
Well, I would just like to say, I like the proactiveness, the proactive approach of NEMA, whereby they're getting the information out there to the general public, the listening audience, so that they can make informed decisions regarding their safety. That goes a long way for me. Too often now, we hear our society is more of a reactive society. We need to be more of a proactive society. So I'm grateful for that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. For me, I basically a lot of the information that was shared, some of it was a bit new for me too. So it was a learning experience for me as well, and I'm really, really, really happy that the deputy NDCR representation from NEMA came, so that this information could be shared. What I want to do is to encourage the public. This is priceless information that you received this morning, and information that could save your life, your property, and that is what we are here for. So take this information, use the information, visit the NEMA's office at Limekeel Commercial Development for any additional information that you might need, and so that you could be better prepared. And as Mr. Martin mentioned, we become a more proactive society. So, Ms. Stevens, we really, 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 really want to give you a heartfelt thank you for being here this morning. And the information that was shared, I'm still trying to find a word that would appropriately describe it. And I really don't want to not do justice. So I'm not going to say too much. I'm going to say thank you, always work. So thank you for being here with us. And I'm hoping that this is just the beginning of more or less future engagement, for want of a better word, that we'll be able to come back and share on the show. And this would also strengthen our partnership that we already have. And so once again, thank you, the listening public. As usual, stay safe, fire safe, COVID safe, follow the regulations, and act accordingly. Yeah.
Are you between the ages of 13 and 29 and want your voice to be heard on issues concerning young people? Then sign up to YouReport OECS to make a difference on matters that concern you. YouReport is free to join. All you have to do is send the word JOIN to Facebook Messenger YouReport OECS or WhatsApp 758-286-2124. YouReport sends you a poll